Okay, everyone, we're going to look at how do we record on a T-chart using our crew accounts. And so now owner's equity is going to be broken down into 4 different accounts, and that's why we call them the crew accounts. So we're going to take the word crew, and so we have a capital, revenue, expense, and withdrawal. And so right here on our book transactions assignment, we have delivery revenue. Anytime we get money coming in, we have to record that revenue. We are also recording it in the cash account, but now we're labeling our revenue and how much we make with it. We have expenses. We have rent expense, utility expense, advertising expense, and maintenance expense. We have to separate these so that we know how much money we're spending on each expense. And then we have the withdrawal account. So on these particular transactions, the capital account is not needed, but if you did have a capital account, then we would just add it there, okay? No big deal. The last name of the owner would be next to the word capital, okay? So we have debits on the left, credits on the right. That's on all of our T-charts. We want to put our pluses and minuses in there, just like we learned last chapter. Then we have, for assets, we have a plus on the debit side, a negative on the credit. So I'm going to do that on both of my assets. For the accounts payable, that's money we have not paid yet. I've got a minus next to the debit and a plus on the credit. Now for our crew accounts, an easy way to remember this is you take the word crew, you cut it in half, okay? CR is actually an abbreviation for the word credit, but capital and revenue, C is for capital, R is for revenue. So if we look at it that way, we could say that capital and revenue have a credit normal balance. Remember, normal balance is always where the positive goes. So capital and revenue have a credit normal balance. So let me go to my capital and my revenue has a credit normal balance. That means it's where the positive is. And so if that's the case for capital and revenue, expense and withdrawal have a debit normal balance. So next to all of my expenses, I'm going to have a debit normal balance, and same with my withdrawals. Okay. All right. So everything's set up. We are ready to go. The main difference with chapter 5 from chapter 4 is at the end, we balance up each T-chart. The way we get our final number is now we're looking to make sure that all of our debit numbers equal all of our credit numbers. I did not explain this at the beginning of the week. So if you did something wrong on your problems and you did not get that part right, I will not hold it against you. But going forward, that's the way that we need to get our final number. All the debits are going to equal all the credits. All right, so here we go. So let's look. Our first transaction says that on October 15th, we provided delivery service for Sims Corporation. A check for $1,200 was received in full payment. A check was received. Now we're putting our actual dates down. So I'm going to go to my cash in bank. If we're receiving, I'm going to record it on the debit side, and I've got to use my accounts now. I've got to use my dates now, sorry. So on October 15th, I received $1,200. Why did I receive it? Because we provided delivery service. So go to delivery revenue. On the 15th, we received $1,200. Okay, so I have in words, I would be saying cash in bank is debited $1,200. Delivery revenue is credited $1,200. Okay, second transaction says we mailed a check. It says check 103 for $700 to pay the month's rent. If we mailed a check for $700, then we lost cash. So on the credit side, I've got to mark my date. So on the 16th, we lost $700 cash. Why did we lose it? To pay the rent. So on the credit, on the 16th, I'm recording $700. One tip to kind of keep in mind when you look at the crew accounts is that we're really just keeping a list of what revenue we're bringing in, how much the withdrawals are. So really, you're only going to be recording on the positive side. All right, on October the 18th, we prepared an advertisement for Zip. We're going to pay Rockfort $75 later. We paid for an advertisement. So go to advertising expense. On the 18th, I have $75 recorded on the debit side of advertising expense. And now I'm going to owe Rockport Advertising $75 later. So on the 18th, I now have a loan. Okay. Let me look at the other sentences. I didn't bring my mouse with me, so here we go. All right. On the 20th, we billed City News $14.50 for delivery service. On the 20th, we've got some delivery service. So on the 20th, we're going to bill City News $14.50. Okay, so I've got my second revenue account listed there. City News is going to owe us money. So I'm going to go over to accounts receivable City News. And on the 20th, I've got $14.50 that City News is going to owe us or pay us later. Okay, 2 more transactions and we're done. Zip paid $125 telephone bill with a check. So if we paid with a check, that means money's coming out. So on the 28th, Cash and Bank is credited $125. We paid the telephone bill, so that's actually considered a utility expense. So on the 28th, we have $125 debited to utilities expense. Okay, and then finally, we wrote a check for $600 to have the office repainted. We wrote a check to have the office repainted. So on the 29th, 10/29, we have $600 coming out of Cash and Bank. Why? Because we had the office repainted. And so on the 29th, maintenance expense is debited $600. I think I lied to you. We do have one more transaction. The owner, Krista Vargas, wrote a check to withdraw, let me see how much, $500 cash for personal use. So it's Halloween. On Halloween, she withdrew $500, so we're crediting cash. And then we're going to go down to the withdrawal account. Our withdrawal account is credited $500. Last chapter, we would have actually gone to the capital account and we would have recorded that withdrawal because she took out money for personal use. We're not doing that now. Now in chapter 5, we have the crew accounts, and so we actually have a withdrawal account that is just for the sole purpose of letting us know how much money the owner's taking out for personal use. Okay, we're not done yet. We have to add up all of our balances from our T-charts. So I'm going to do accounts receivable is the only balance in there. It's on the debit side, so I'm going to circle it. So all of my T-charts that only have one balance, I'm going to circle those. Okay, my revenue, I have 2 different values. I have $1,200 plus $1,450. So my answer, or if I add those together, it would be $1,650, and I'm going to circle it. I'm going to keep that balance on the credit side. Okay, that means it's a credit balance. And last, I have Cash and Bank. Oh boy, I can't do that in my head without a calculator, but we're going to have a positive balance. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take $1,200. I'm going to subtract $700, subtract $125, subtract $600, subtract $500. Whatever I get, I'm going to put over on the debit side because it's going to be a positive amount. Okay, still not done. Final thing we're going to do is we have to come up with answers, just like we did in chapter 4. But we are no longer using our accounting equation to come up with our answers that match. We're not using that. That still works. This is still true. The accounting equation is always going to be true. But to find our numbers that match, we're going to look at all of the debit account numbers and add them together. Debit balances. So I'm going to go to cash and bank, and whatever this number was, it's on the debit side. I'm going to put that in the calculator. And then I'm going to go to this debit balance. I'm going to add to that to the calculator. I'm going to go find any other debit numbers. There's a 75 I'm going to add together, a 600 I'm going to add together, a 125, and a 500. Whatever number I get, I'm going to put here underneath the D for debit balances. And so then to find the credit balances, I'm going to do the exact same thing. All the credit balances that are circled on the credit side, I'm going to add together. So there's a 75, there's a 1650, there's a 700. Looks like that's it. And so we're going to add it up on the credit side. Okay, so debits now equal the credits. And when we find those numbers, we're going to make sure that we have double underline and that they actually meet. They actually match, and the double underline tells Miss Vining that they match. Okay, I'm going to put a smiley face because I don't like the way those little circles were there. We're going to have a number equals another number. Okay, if you're having problems, reach out to me. We can Zoom. I can email any questions or answers that you might have, questions you might have, and any answers to them. So get in touch with me, and we'll talk to you soon.